This webinar is all going to be about our new Key Stage 4 exam skill resources for French. As I said, please do stick around though if you're German and Spanish, as it will be relevant to you as well. There are going to be two of us speaking to you today. We've got my colleague Elaine, who I'm going to hand over to in a moment, who is our Director of Education at Languagenut. As you can see, she's got lots of years of experience teacher as an MFL teacher, and a lot of you may well have seen her speak before at various events, as well as other Languagenut webinars. And then I am Fiona. I joined Languagenut a couple of years ago working on our A-level product, and recently stepped into the role of Head of Content and been working on both our primary guided course and our new GCSE resources over the last few months. So really excited to be able to talk to you all today about what we've been up to. But yeah, for now I'm going to hand over to Elaine before I show you all of our new resources in the platform. Elaine's going to talk to you a little bit more and give you again a little bit of a snapshot of the context that we're working in and any of the new changes to the new GCSE. So I'll pass over to Elaine now.
Thank you, Fiona. Yes, and it will be very brief. I'm going to keep my section very short so that you've got a maximum time to look at the platform that Fiona's going to show you this afternoon. Obviously, everything that we talk about is obviously going to be recorded, so you will be able to refer back to it in training later on or refer it on to someone else. But we would like to say that everything on our section tonight is really good to see it alongside the PowerPoint that you'll see here, and obviously all the ideas that we share on this webinar, if they're not to do if there's something that you've seen before, it's definitely going to be something that we'll have seen before and that we will have heard about, and you'll be able to we can thank the community for allowing us to share all the resources and the ideas that we do online regularly. Next slide, Fiona. Please. I'm just giving a quick link there to the teacher standards. I won't go into too much detail, but if you are new to the profession, or you are training, or you are maybe thinking of joining the profession, this is where this session tonight will give you your evidence for your portfolio and for your any essays that you have to write as part of your training. Okay, move to the next slide, please, Fiona. So very straightforwardly then, obviously the current GCSE that we're teaching is for years 10 and 11 and is now known as the Legacy GCSE, and the last exam, as I'm sure most of us know, will be 2025. The new GCSE, which is the one that Fiona's going to show you tonight, the resources that we've created, will affect the current year 9 and any child below, and they will be starting their GCSEs in 2024, which is obviously next year. You may have students who are already doing this course if you do options in year 8. Those of you that are heads of department, or those of you that are part of SMT, or have to have some sort of meetings with your senior leadership team or governors or Ofsted to do with languages, may not be aware of this, but from 2024 MFL will be a headline measure, and there is a link in this PowerPoint to that article. That means that at the moment on school websites it's just English and maths results that have to be reported, but from next year EBAC, so the percentage of pupils entered for EBAC, will also have to be a headline measure that schools will have to have on their websites. Next slide for me, Fiona. So obviously the differences very quickly between the Legacy versus the new GCSE. There are 1,200 words at foundation and 1,700 at higher. 85% of the words that the exam boards have chosen have come from the most frequent top 2,000 words, and they've had to have 30 multi-word phrases and 20 cultural items. Next slide, Fiona, which I think is the last one for me. So basically, in a nutshell, the questions and rubrics will be in English across all of the exam boards. That's something that was agreed very early on, and we are looking particularly tonight just at a couple of few differences between AQA and EdXL, because EduCAS is still very much in awaiting accreditation, and there is a link at the end of this slide which shows you the latest accredited awards, and also a link to Helen Myers' blog, which may well give you some help to decide which GCSE specification you would like to look at for your new for the cohort that will sit the new GCSE. So For AQA then, with the listening, there'll only be 2 repetitions of the audio, but for the dictation there will be 3. For Edexcel there are going to be 3 repeats right the way through the paper. That might be something that you may well need to look at when you are deciding your exam board. For the reading, quite a few, less than 2% of words will be glossed, but that's a big change because in the current GCSE no words are glossed. In the speaking, that's where a lot of the main differences are. The role play for Edexcel will be very much transactional. There are 10 topics. There is also a read aloud, which both exam boards have got on their specification. And for Edexcel, you're allowed 1 minute in the exam room to actually practice it aloud, but you're not allowed that for AQA. And also you're allowed to annotate the read aloud with any annotations that you want to make for Edexcel, but not for AQA. In addition to that, the speaking cards for Edexcel are in colour, and they are in black and white for AQA. On top of that is the writing, the final skill that you have to that you will be giving your students. For AQA foundation writing, there are 5 short grammar tasks, and for the bullet points for the Edexcel, they will remain the same throughout the time that this GCSE is in force, so to speak. Okay, I think that's me done, Fiona. So another slide.
Thank you very much, Elaine. Thank you. Yeah, and as I said, Elaine's going to be in the chat in the Q&A for the next half an hour or so while we look at the new resources. She is our resident guru on all things news with the new GCSE. So do please fire over any questions, and I'm sure she'll be able to tackle them either while I'm talking or afterwards in Q&A. So thank you so much for that, Elaine.
No problem.
What I'm going to look at now is our new resources, and you can see here a list of the different things that we've added at the new GCSE. That's in here for you to refer back to. What I'm actually going to do though is take you over to our platform and really sort of take you through the different aspects that we've been adding for the new GCSE. So if I just tab across, you should now be able to see my screen. And I know that we've got various people joining us today, some of whom are already subscribers, so welcome back to those of you who I've spoken to before. But I know we've also got quite a few people who signed up for the webinar who currently don't subscribe to Languagenut. So just to provide a little bit of context for you before we focus in on our exam skills section, which is where our new resources are, I'll just give you a little bit of context to the platform if you haven't seen it before. So obviously Languagenut is a digital language learning platform. Teachers get logins, students get logins, and students complete activities on the platforms for which they earn points. You can set up competitions within your schools or between schools, and we also run worldwide competitions to boost engagement. So if I show you this one, we're actually currently running a worldwide competition in which we know that over 350,000 students have been taking part. And so you can really keep track of how your school is doing, how linguists in your school are doing compared to their peers, and also the top 50 students in the world will be entered into the chance of winning some prizes. So lots of ways to build engagement within the platform. We also have lots of different types of resources. We have vocabulary resources, which include an AI chat function where students are required to build sentences and they get feedback from an AI chatbot. We also have our exam skills, which I'm going to be going into in more detail shortly, which include reading, listening, writing and speaking activities. We have a sentences and chunks section, which builds on the kind of vocabulary they learn, and they look at that at the sentence level. And then we have a phonics and pronunciation section, as well as our grammar and verb section. Now, before I dive into exam skills, one thing to be aware of, either if you are a current subscriber or if you're new, obviously today we're talking about the new GCSE. One thing we did add just after the summer was the newly accredited exam board vocabulary for French. So you can see if you go into our vocab trainer, you will have the option to access both the legacy exam board content, any of your own content, any of the NSELP content we have loaded onto the platform. We have our own Languagenut vocabulary trainer, but then we also now have the new GCSE exam board vocab, and you can see that there for AQA French and Edexcel French. You can access the foundation and the higher tier, and we've broken that down based on how the exam boards have presented that to us into the different themes or thematic contexts, and then within that into the different word groups. So all of that is available on the platform for you to use and for you to go through. And obviously you can add those to your My Content section as well. Another thing that we have done that we've added recently is we've added new sounds to both French, Spanish, German in our phonics section, so that we now fully align with the off-call sound symbol correspondences. So we already had 10 in there, and now we have an extra 5 sounds. So again, if you haven't yet had a chance to have a look at those, do check them out. And if you're new to the platform, and if any of this is sort of completely brand new to you and you would like to have a look at it through a trial, we will be sharing an email at the end of the webinar, which you can get in touch with to make sure you can have a look at these in full. One thing I will say is obviously today we are looking at French. That is because obviously we've had the accredited specification for French earlier this year. We are currently also working on the German and Spanish. We know that German and Spanish for Edexcel were accredited in the last few days, so we are straight away, we've been sort of making sure that we're getting the vocabulary ready for that, and we'll also be obviously working on our exam skill resources for the other languages as well. So while we currently have French and we're about to release French this week for our exam skills, we will be making sure that we get the full coverage of those 3 languages, French, German and Spanish, and make sure that we get those sort of ready and released for you as soon as possible, because we know that there is a lot of demand out there for new resources that are aligned to this new GCSE, and so we're doing everything that we can to keep you sort of up to date with that. So moving on to what we're about to release, and we're really excited. We've been working on this over the summer, and it's our new sort of exam skills section, including new GCSE activities. So if I just go into here, what you'll be able to see on the left hand side, if you're already familiar with the platform, you'll have seen before that we used to have sort of here, you'd have your Key Stage 3, Key Stage 4 and your My Content. We've added a new level here where you can, for the new content, pick your exam board. So you can select AQA or Edexcel, but then you can also access the legacy content. So if I briefly click on that, there you will see essentially the resources that we currently have on the platform for secondary, for Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4. So don't worry, any old favourites will still be there. Obviously, we still have another 2 years worth of students sitting the legacy exam. So it's important to have this content there available for them that covers the sort of topics that Languagenut chose for this particular content, but we will not be getting rid of this. This will be something that stays here. We know that because of the new GCSE and the fact that it's brought in these word lists and quite strict grammar requirements, that there are some teachers out there who are worried that, you know, they want to maybe expose their students to more vocabulary or more sort of different structures. So this will sit here and is something that you can dip in and out of whenever you wish. And those will continue to have the same sort of reading, listening, writing and speaking activities that those of you who are already familiar with the platform will have seen before. So on to the new content. As I mentioned just now, we now have the option to choose your exam board, and all this essentially means is that we've chosen to align our resources and align our Languagenut topics around under the umbrella of the overall themes or the thematic context that have been provided by the exam boards. And we've done this to make it easier for you as teachers to build your own curriculum, to build your scheme of work, so that, you know, if you want to set a quick assignment, you know exactly, you can go into AQA, you can pick your theme, or at Excel you can pick your thematic context and build your own assignments and work around those themes. Everything in here is our original content. As I said, we've just chosen to sort of put it under these umbrellas. It has also allowed us in particular with our reading and our speaking activities and our listening activities to really focus on the word lists that have been provided by the exam boards. So in our reading and our listening section, we've really made sure that where possible we stick to the vocabulary lists that have been provided by those exam boards. So if there's a word for AQA that isn't on the list for Edexcel in that text for the equivalent topic, we will have changed it where possible. So we have really tried to make sure that we stick to those conventions, and we've also tried to make sure that that we also make sure that we have those different conventions, such as the glossing will be in there. So if I click on one of these activities, you'll be able to see in our reading section, you'll be able to see where we've included a reading task and there's a word that's not on the list, it will be then glossed at the bottom of the page. So we will provide a topic, we'll provide a title, and then any words that need glossing will be there in the activity at the bottom. So this is an example of one of our multiple choice questions. A lot of the activities in here, if you haven't been on the platform before, are automatically marked, and this is one of those. One thing we've changed for the new GCSE is we no longer have the ability to switch the language into the target language. The exams are all going to be questions are going to be English. Students will be required to answer in English, and therefore that's what we have written for the new GCSE. And so you will still have those accessibility features and the ability to go through these activities, and students will get feedback automatically as they go through them. That said, one of the things that we've done for reading is we have added some new topics, we've added some new activities as well. So as well as new topics, we've added new activities that align more to the new GCSE. So for example, we have removed true or false, and in its place we've included an open reading comprehension game. And what the nice thing that we've been able to do with this is essentially double our content compared to our legacy resources, where at the moment in the legacy resources, all of these activities within a level are based around the same text. We now have one text for your multiple choice and your gap fill, and then we have an open reading comprehension game which is based around another text. Now, because this is students will complete this and it is teacher marked, students won't automatically be able to see this. So this means that you can complete a multiple choice or a gap fill activity in class, for example, and then set an assignment, for example, as a reading comprehension task, and you'll know that that text won't have been seen yet by those students. So this is what the open comprehension task will look like for reading. Again, if you're familiar with our A-level product, you'll have seen this before. So in this, students will see the question up here at the top. So what does person A think about healthy evening? Students will type their answer, and they will then submit that, and that will have been assigned by you as a teacher. They will then submit their answer, and that will then move them on to the next question. So if I move through here nice and quickly, so once students have completed their fifth answer and they hit submit, that will then go through to you in your assignments area for you to mark. However, as we do want students to be able to have some level of autonomy here, we do give them the option to see their answers alongside our Languagenut suggested answers as well. So once they hit submit, that will go through to you to mark officially, but they will also see the Languagenut questions that they just answered alongside a suggested answer, which they can then compare with their own answer. So they can already get a good idea for how they've done in that task without having to wait for their teacher to mark it. For teachers, once a student has completed a task such as an open reading comprehension, as it is a teacher graded example, you will see this in your assignments area. When you go into results and grading, you'll then be able to see that there is an answer that you need to grade. So if I click on that, you'll then be taken to the mark screen. So we've tried to make this as simple as possible for teachers to try and sort of make sure there's not too much of a burden on you with marking. So in this open reading example, you'll be able to see the base text for that particular activity. You'll then see the questions down here on the left hand side, and then you'll see the answers that your student gave, and then the suggested answer. So you can just compare those and either tick it if it's correct or leave it blank if you think it's incorrect, and that will then automatically update the percentage, which is then given to student as an overall percentage once you click save. You do have the option to add an overall comment or to record an audio comment, but you can also then just save that so that mark then goes to the student in their area here. So that is our open reading comprehension question, and we hope that sort of reflects a little bit more the kind of questions that students will see on an exam. As I said, the questions will be in English, and the answers will be expected to be in English as well. And as I said, where possible, we've made sure with our word lists and our choice of content within these that we've followed the conventions set by the exam boards. Obviously, at the moment, I'm showing AQA. The actual activities within these will be the same for AQA and Edexcel. It's just the content itself might look slightly different. So moving on to listening, you'll be able to see now that we've added an extra activity in listening, which is the dictation. We've also added an open listening comprehension. You will still have the same audio for your multiple choice and your who said what questions. And again, for those of you who are familiar with the platform, you'll know that those two activities are automatically marked. So if I just quickly go in and show you multiple choice. So students will be able to play the audio.
Monsieur, je vais prendre le riz aux légumes, c'est mon plat préféré ici.
And they will then decide whether or not which of the following answers is correct. You are still able to open transcripts of this, and you can make this visible or invisible to students. That transcript will then open, and you will see the transcript for that task. So our two new examples of activities in listening are our open listening comprehension and our dictation. Our open listening comprehension looks very similar to the reading, again, except for the fact obviously on the left hand side here where you had a text, you now have an audio. So again, students can play the audio.
Pour le petit déjeuner, je mange toujours un croissant.
Which will show you where a new person is beginning to speak.
Chez moi, on mange toujours en famille.
It's just with the open listening comprehension, similarly to the open reading, students will type their answer and that will then go back through to the teacher to mark. And again, it will look very, very similar to the open reading. The only difference will be obviously where you have the text, again, you have the question audio. And again, you're going to mark those answers as correct or leave them blank if you think they are incorrect. Now, one of the activities that we're really excited to add is one that lots of teachers have been asking about, and it's one of the two big activities that is definitely part of this new GCSE that I think most teachers out there are feeling a little bit less confident about, and not necessarily full of resources out there with them. So one of these is dictation and the other is the read aloud, and we've added both of those games to our exam skills with our new resources for French Key Stage 4. We will also be adding them for Spanish and German. So those will all be there for those. And so with the dictation, if I just take you into that now. So the dictation will look fairly simple like this. All the students will need to do is press play. For both Edexcel and AQA, we've made sure that there are 3 repetitions and that those are just built into the audio. So students will hear number 1 and then they will hear it repeated to them in that audio 3 times, and it will move seamlessly on to question 2. So there's no need to sort of flick backwards and forwards in the audio. It's all there for them in the same way that it would be if they were to play it in an exam. So if I just play this for as an example.
1.
Pour le petit déjeuner, je mange toujours des fruits. Pour le petit déjeuner, je mange toujours.
So you can see you've got the repetition built in there, and then students can then type their answer for question 1, and when they're ready they can move on to question 2. This is another teacher marked activity, so they would then need to hit submit, and that would then go through for you to mark. We've obviously made these self-marking. We haven't made these self-marking because of the fact that the mark scheme for the dictation and the read aloud is quite holistic, and so it's something that you'll be able to go into and have a look at yourself. So when you go into your assignment for a dictation, you'll be able to see when a student has completed an activity. At the top here, you will see the suggested answer, or essentially the transcript for that activity. And at this stage, you have various options for the way in which you mark it. You can do highlighted answers, so you can add comments as and when necessary, and you can also give an overall grade out of 100, or if you wish to mark that alongside the exam mark scheme, you could then put that comment in your overall teacher comment section and then translate that to a percentage. You also have the option to record your audio comments for these as well. So lots of different ways in which you can provide feedback on tasks such as the dictation, and hopefully a good way for students to practice that skill. The only difference with the different difficulty levels for the dictation is that at the easy level they will get 3 sentences, shorter sentences. At the medium level they will get 4, and at the difficult level they will get 5 sentences. So moving on to speaking, I'm going to skip over writing for a moment and move on to speaking. As I said just now, we have various games that we've added for this new GCSE, but one of the 2 we know that teachers are particularly excited about are the read aloud and the dictation. So we have added a new read aloud game in our speaking section. As those of you know, writing and speaking are both teacher marked in our resources, and so they are invisible to students unless they've been set as an assignment. And so what students will see once you've set them an assignment for read aloud is they will be taken into a screen where they're given 5 minutes to read either 5 or 6 sentences, which will be displayed on the screen as so. They will have 5 minutes to read through those, and then they can either start now if they're ready, or they can wait until the 5 minutes is out, and then they will record themselves reading those sentences out loud, which will then go through to your assignment area and it will go through to yours to grade. So you will be able to listen to your student's answer. If you click grade on the read aloud question, you will then be taken through, you will be given the suggested answer, which again is just the text that they read out loud, and you will then be able to play the student's answer.
Il y a beaucoup de touristes ici. Dans ma ville.
And at this stage, again, this is where our audio comment particularly comes into its own. Obviously, in this particular task, we're looking for students to really improve their pronunciation, and therefore if you spot, for example, that this student pronounced the word dans wrong and they've said dans, in your audio comment, if you wish, you can then choose to read back the words that they got wrong and give them the correct pronunciation for those words. Once again, you can also add a written comment, and you can also grade by percentage, or if you choose, you can use the exam board mark scheme and then turn that into a percentage as well. Another thing that we've done in speaking is we're aware now, obviously, that for the photo task, students get the choice of 2 photos. So we've made sure that we've added 2 photos to our photo description task. So students will see both of those pictures and they can choose which one to describe. So that's a nice simple change that we've been able to make to both AQA and Edexcel. And then our last big change that we've made is to our writing section. We've still got the same type of task. We've got an open question in writing for easy, medium and hard. The main difference to our current resources now is that we've paid much more attention to the exam board terminology with our writing questions. So for both AQA and Edexcel, we have chosen for our easy level to be a task that reflects a foundation style paper question. So for AQA, a 50-word question. And so if I take you into this one, you'll be able to see we've slightly changed the way in which you see this. So you get a scenario like you would do in an exam, and you also get students will be told how many words that we want them to write, and they will be given the same number of bullet points as would be shown in that particular task for that exam board. So again, you can assign this to them, and this gives students, it gives you and it gives students a much wider bank of resources that are in a more kind of past paper style for you to practice with them, because we know at the moment obviously there aren't going to be that many out there. What we've done for the medium writing question is we've chosen it for it to be the overlap question, so the 90-word task that you see on both the foundation and the higher paper, which seems like a relevant one to put at the medium level. So again, you get the 3 bullet points that are on the new spec, and students are told to write 90 words, and they're also given a scenario. And then finally, for our difficult level in the writing, we have students are given a 150-word writing task, which is obviously much more reflective of the higher tier paper, and again they're given, for this AQA example, 2 bullet points, whereas it'll be slightly different for Edexcel. And as I said, that will change, the way that this is written will change for AQA and Edexcel based on what we've been sort of shared with us so far in the SAMS material. So those are our new, the different sort of activities within this section. As I said, we have designed these hopefully to make your lives easier and to make sure that you have plenty of resources that are relevant to the new specification. Obviously, we'll be doing a Q&A in just a minute, and hopefully Elaine will be able to sort of gather any of those questions that have come through from the Q&A section. But if I just take you back to our PowerPoint for a moment. So as I said, those are the key headlines of what we've added for our new GCSE resources. Obviously, you'll be able to select between your exam boards. We've doubled the content of our currently secondary resources because we've added new texts within a level for both the listening and the reading sections. We've added our open listening comprehension game, our open reading comprehension game, our new read aloud game, dictation game, and our writing questions are now written in the style of the exam boards, much more in the style of the exam boards. So hopefully you can see that it will be a much more aligned product for you to use when preparing your students for the new GCSE. I'll just quickly draw your attention to the new GCSE roadmap. So as I said, everything that I've described so far, we've added new phonics, we've added new vocabulary. We're about to release these new French Key Stage 4 materials. That will be in the next few days. Obviously, our next steps are to make sure we've got our Key Stage 3 French as well as our Key Stage 3 and 4 German and Spanish ready for you. We will also be making sure that we add the new vocabulary for Spanish and German, as well as a list of high frequency verbs. So we'll be adding new verbs to this verb section for all of our languages, our German, Spanish, French and also Italian. And then further down the line, as we've sort of put these onto the platform, once we've got all of those uploaded, what we're going to be looking at doing for you is producing a sort of scheme of work that you can use alongside Languagenut, which will give you sort of either a 2-year or a 3-year scheme of work, which will not just include the exam skills, but ideas for like that will bring in vocabulary, grammar, exam skills, sentence building, that will hopefully give you a much more step-by-step idea of how you could build a curriculum around Languagenut and around our secondary resources. So do watch out for that, and we're always keen to hear people's opinions on what they'd like to see for that, how they would like to break that down. And so I'm going to be sharing emails in a moment of myself and Elaine, and if you do have any questions or have any thoughts or points to add on things like the content, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to get sort of teachers' opinions on what you would like that to look like. As I said, everything we do with these new resources is based around what we've been asked for. And what teachers have told us that they need, and so we want to make sure that any future resources that we do develop are aligned with that as well. So without further ado, those are our emails on the screen. You've got myself and Elaine. If you've got any questions about the content, please do give us a message. And I've also got the inquiries at languagenut.com. So if you are interested in a trial, or if you're interested in finding out more about the resources, obviously a focus particularly on exam skills and new activities that we've added to the platform today. If you do have any questions and want to see more of our resources and get a wider view of those, then do drop inquiries a message. And if you are currently a subscriber and you would like a bit more support or some training on the new resources, then I've also added our customer support email down there at the bottom as well.